What's going on, everyone? And welcome back. If you've ever wanted to become the player leading every dungeon, controlling every pull, and standing face-to-face with the biggest bosses in Conquest of Azeroth, then this is the guide for you. Tanking is one of the most rewarding roles in the game, but it's also one of the most misunderstood. A lot of players think a tank's only job is to survive, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. A great tank controls the battlefield. They manage enemy positioning. They protect the group. They interrupt dangerous abilities. They decide the pace of every dungeon. And they create opportunities for the rest of the team to succeed. Choosing the right build is what makes all of that possible. Some tank builds focus entirely on survivability. Others trade some defense for more damage. Some excel in Mythic Dungeons where mobility is king. Others are built specifically for long raid encounters. So in today's guide, we're breaking down the best tank build for every major tank class in Conquest of Azeroth. For every build we'll cover why it's the strongest, where it performs best, its strengths, its weaknesses, difficulty, and which type of player should choose it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which tank build fits your playstyle. Let's jump in. How I rank these builds. Before we start, let's quickly explain the criteria. Unlike DPS builds, tank builds aren't judged purely by damage. Instead, I looked at 7 important categories. The first is survivability. Can the build comfortably survive large pulls and difficult bosses? Second, threat generation. Can it reliably keep enemies focused on the tank? Third, cooldown management. Does the class have reliable defensive abilities available throughout an encounter? Fourth, mobility. Can it reposition enemies quickly or react to dangerous mechanics? Fifth, utility. Does the build provide crowd control, buffs, interrupts, or group support? Sixth, damage. While staying alive is the priority, good tank damage helps your group clear content faster. Finally, ease of play. Some builds are beginner-friendly. Others require constant resource management and perfect timing. With those categories in mind, let's start with one of the strongest tanks in today's meta, Guardian Iron Bastion build. The first class on our list is the Guardian. If your goal is becoming an almost unbreakable wall that protects your group through the toughest encounters, the Iron Bastion build is one of the best choices available. This build focuses on maximizing defensive uptime while maintaining reliable threat generation. Instead of relying on one massive cooldown every few minutes, Guardian excels because it always has an answer to incoming damage. That's exactly what makes it so reliable in progression content. During Mythic Dungeons, Guardian performs exceptionally well because it can comfortably handle large enemy pulls without immediately exhausting every defensive cooldown. For raids, the story is much the same. Bosses often deal consistent damage over long periods, and Guardian thrives in those situations thanks to its steady mitigation and predictable defensive rotation. Another major strength is simplicity. Compared to some of the more technical tank classes, Guardian has a relatively forgiving learning curve. New players can quickly understand the basics, while experienced players still have plenty of room to optimize cooldown usage and positioning. The downside is mobility. Guardian isn't the fastest tank, and some encounters requiring constant repositioning can feel slightly slower than more agile alternatives. Even so, if your priority is reliability, few classes perform as consistently. Best 4. Mythic Dungeons. Raids. Beginner tanks. Difficulty. Blood Knight. Crimson Defender build. Next, we have one of the most satisfying tank playstyles in Conquest of Azeroth. Blood Knight. Rather than preventing damage outright, the Crimson Defender build revolves around recovering from damage through powerful self-healing. That's what makes the class feel so unique. Instead of panicking when your health drops, you often expect it, because you know your next ability is going to restore a massive portion of your health. Experienced Blood Knight players become incredibly difficult to kill. Their health bar constantly moves up and down, but they maintain remarkable control over their survivability. This build also performs extremely well in solo content. Being able to heal yourself while maintaining strong threat generation means you can comfortably handle difficult enemies without relying heavily on external healing. The challenge comes from resource management. Poor timing can leave you vulnerable during dangerous moments. Blood Knight rewards planning more than reaction. Once mastered, However, it becomes one of the strongest tank builds available. Best 4. Raids. Solo content. High mythic keys. Difficulty. Those are two of the strongest defensive builds currently dominating endgame content. But we're just getting started. Next, we'll cover Templar, Earth Warden, Spirit Warden, Juggernaut, Chronogard, and several other excellent tank builds, explaining exactly when you should choose each one and what makes them shine. Templar, Holy Bulwark build. Next on the list is the Templar. If you enjoy being the tank that not only survives, but also protects your entire party, the Holy Bulwark build is an incredible choice. Unlike tanks that focus purely on personal defense, Templar brings a mixture of mitigation, utility, and support. That's what makes it so valuable in group content. The Holy Bulwark build revolves around reducing incoming damage before it becomes a problem. Instead of waiting until your health starts dropping, you're constantly rotating defensive abilities and support cooldowns to smooth out damage for yourself and, in many cases, your team. This makes healers incredibly happy because your health bar stays much more stable throughout encounters. One of Templar's biggest strengths is emergency utility. When things go wrong, and eventually they always do, you have the tools to stabilize the situation. Whether it's protecting an ally, recovering from a dangerous mechanic, or surviving an unexpected pull, Templar has answers that many other tanks simply don't. Its damage isn't the highest among tank classes, but that's rarely why players choose it. You play Templar because it's dependable. Groups love having a reliable tank who can recover from mistakes and keep everyone alive. The downside is mobility. Compared to faster tanks, Templar can feel slightly slower during Mythic Dungeons that require constant movement. Still, for progression rating and newer tank players, it's one of the safest choices available. Best 4. Raids. Beginner tanks. Group utility. Progression content. Difficulty. Earth Warden, Stone Guardian build. Now let's talk about one of the toughest tanks in Conquest of Azeroth. Earth Warden. The Stone Guardian build focuses on one thing above everything else: being almost impossible to kill. This class specializes in absorbing massive amounts of damage through powerful defensive abilities and incredible armor scaling. If Guardian feels like a sturdy wall, Earth Warden feels like an entire fortress. Large enemy pulls that would overwhelm other tanks often feel surprisingly manageable thanks to the build's exceptional durability. This makes Earth Warden particularly effective in Mythic Dungeons where surviving enormous trash pulls is one of the biggest challenges. Another major advantage is consistency. Earth Warden doesn't rely heavily on risky mechanics or complicated resource management. Instead, the class rewards good positioning, intelligent cooldown usage, and understanding encounter mechanics. Its predictable playstyle makes it surprisingly beginner-friendly despite performing well at higher levels. The trade-off is speed. Earth Warden sacrifices some mobility and damage output in exchange for unmatched durability. Dungeon clears may be slightly slower compared to more aggressive tanks, but they're also much safer. For players who value stability over flashy gameplay, Earth Warden is an excellent option. Best 4. Mythic Dungeons. Large pulls. Beginner tanks. Survival-focused players. Difficulty. Spirit Warden, Eternal Guardian build. Next, we have Spirit Warden. Spirit Warden offers one of the most balanced tank experiences in the game. The Eternal Guardian build combines respectable survivability, reliable self-healing, and strong utility into a very well-rounded package. Rather than excelling in only one area, Spirit Warden performs consistently across almost every type of PvE content. That's exactly why it's become such a popular choice. Its self-sustain allows healers to spend less time focusing exclusively on the tank and more time helping the rest of the group. Meanwhile, its utility abilities make controlling dangerous enemies much easier. One area where Spirit Warden really shines is flexibility. Whether you're running Mythic Dungeons one day or raiding the next, you won't feel like you're using the wrong build. It adapts well to different situations without requiring major changes. The learning curve sits comfortably in the middle. It's approachable enough for newer players while still rewarding experienced tanks who optimize cooldown timing and positioning. The only weakness is that it doesn't dominate any single category. Instead, it remains consistently good at almost everything. And for many players, That's exactly what they're looking for. Best 4. Mythic Plus. Raids. General PvE. Flexible players. Difficulty. Juggernaut. Unbreakable force build. Now let's move on to one of the most aggressive tanks available. Juggernaut. If Guardian is about patience, and Earth Warden is about endurance, Juggernaut is about momentum. The Unbreakable force build combines excellent survivability with surprisingly high damage output. Instead of simply surviving encounters, Juggernaut actively contributes meaningful DPS while maintaining solid defenses. This makes it especially popular in experienced Mythic Dungeon groups where faster clears are always welcome. The class also excels at controlling large packs of enemies. Strong threat generation allows you to gather multiple groups together while keeping everything focused on you. That gives your DPS players the freedom to unleash powerful AoE abilities without constantly worrying about pulling threat. Of course, aggression comes with responsibility. Poor cooldown management can quickly leave Juggernaut vulnerable. Unlike Earth Warden, which forgives small mistakes, Juggernaut rewards players who understand exactly when to play aggressively and when to slow things down. For confident players looking for an active, engaging tank experience, it's one of the most enjoyable builds in Conquest of Azeroth. Best 4. Mythic Dungeons. Fast dungeon clears. Aggressive players. Experienced tanks. Difficulty. We've now covered some of the strongest tank builds currently available in Conquest of Azeroth, but we're not finished yet. In the final section, we'll break down Chronogard, rank every tank build from S tier to B tier, discuss the best tank builds for beginners, Mythic Dungeons, and raids, and finish with 5 essential tips that will help you become a better tank regardless of which class you choose. Chronogard, Temporal Bastion build. The final tank we're covering today is Chronogard. If you enjoy a more technical playstyle that rewards planning, timing, and smart decision-making, the Temporal Bastion build is one of the most satisfying tank builds in Conquest of Azeroth. Unlike traditional tanks that rely purely on armor or self-healing, Chronogard specializes in controlling the pace of combat. Its defensive toolkit revolves around perfectly timed cooldowns, damage mitigation, and battlefield control. A skilled Chronogard player rarely looks overwhelmed because they're constantly preparing for incoming damage before it happens. That's one of the biggest strengths of the class. Preparation. Instead of reacting after taking damage, you're anticipating dangerous mechanics and reducing their impact before they become a problem. This build also brings excellent utility to group content. Whether it's helping control dangerous enemy packs, repositioning efficiently, or supporting the party during high-pressure moments, Chronogard offers far more than just survivability. The downside is complexity. If you mistime your defensive abilities or panic during large pulls, you'll notice it immediately. Chronogard has one of the highest skill ceilings among tank classes, making it incredibly rewarding for experienced players, but slightly intimidating for beginners. Still, once mastered, it's capable of handling virtually every piece of endgame PvE content with confidence. Best 4. Mythic Plus. Raids. Experienced tanks. Technical players. Difficulty. Best tank build for beginners. So, if you've never tanked before, which build should you choose? Without hesitation, I'd recommend the Guardian, Iron Bastion build. Why? Because it teaches all the fundamentals of tanking without overwhelming you. You learn positioning, threat management, defensive cooldown rotation, pull pacing, boss control, and you can focus on improving those skills without constantly worrying about complicated mechanics. Guardian is incredibly forgiving. Small mistakes rarely result in instant failure, giving you time to learn from each encounter. If Guardian doesn't match your preferred style, then Earth Warden is another fantastic beginner option. Its incredible durability gives you extra room for mistakes while you become more comfortable leading dungeon groups. Remember, every experienced tank once struggled with their first pull. Confidence comes with practice. Best tank builds for Mythic Dungeons. Now let's focus specifically on Mythic Dungeons. The ideal Mythic tank needs more than survivability. You also need strong threat generation, mobility, crowd control, efficient defensive cooldowns, and enough damage to help your group clear quickly. For Mythic Plus, my top recommendations are Guardian, reliable, consistent, excellent survivability, perfect for nearly every dungeon. Juggernaut, fantastic damage output. Excellent threat generation, perfect for aggressive groups aiming for fast clears. Warden, outstanding durability. Large pulls become much safer thanks to its defensive toolkit. If your healer is still learning or your group prefers a safer pace, Warden is an amazing choice. Best tank builds for raids. Raid encounters usually demand something slightly different. Long boss fights reward consistency more than burst survivability. For raiding, these are my favorites. Guardian, steady mitigation, reliable cooldown rotation, excellent boss control. Blood Knight, self-healing becomes incredibly valuable during extended encounters. Experienced Blood Knight players often feel remarkably self-sufficient. Templar, exceptional utility, great defensive support, very stable health management. These qualities make Templar an outstanding progression tank. Complete tank tier list. After comparing every build based on survivability, threat generation, cooldown management, mobility, utility, damage, and overall consistency, here's my complete ranking. S tier, Guardian, Iron Bastion, Blood Knight, Crimson Defender. Both offer incredible survivability while remaining effective across nearly every piece of PvE content. A tier, Templar, Holy Bulwark, Earth Warden, Stone Guardian, Spirit Warden, Eternal Guardian. Excellent builds capable of clearing every raid and mythic dungeon in the game. Each offers a different balance of survivability, utility, and flexibility. B tier, Juggernaut, Unbreakable Force, Chronogard, Temporal Bastion. Still extremely capable. These builds simply demand stronger execution and more encounter knowledge to unlock their full potential. Remember, every tank here is viable. This ranking reflects overall consistency rather than absolute power. 5 tips to become a better tank. Before we finish the guide, here are 5 habits that will instantly improve your tanking. Tip number 1, learn every pull. Great tanks don't just know bosses. They know trash packs too. Understanding dangerous enemies and interrupt priorities makes dungeons dramatically easier. Tip number 2, don't rush. Many new tanks think bigger pulls automatically mean better gameplay. Not always. Pull only what your group can comfortably handle. A slower, successful run is always faster than repeated wipes. Tip number 3, use defensive cooldowns early. One of the biggest mistakes new tanks make is saving cooldowns for emergencies. Instead, rotate them proactively. Reducing damage consistently is far stronger than trying to recover after your health has already dropped. Tip number 4, watch your group. A great tank isn't only watching enemies. They're watching the healer's mana, the DPS positioning, the cooldowns available, and the overall pace of the dungeon. Awareness separates good tanks from great ones. Tip number 5, stay calm. Every tank makes mistakes. Sometimes you'll miss an interrupt. Sometimes you'll overpull. Sometimes the group wipes. Don't panic. Review what happened, adjust, and move forward. That's how the last one standing, and often the player who determines whether a run succeeds or fails. While every tank build offers a different experience, they all share one thing in common. They reward knowledge more than gear. Understanding encounters, positioning enemies correctly, managing cooldowns, and communicating with your team will always matter more than simply wearing better equipment. So choose the build that matches your playstyle. Practice consistently. Learn from every run. And before long, you'll become the tank that every group wants to invite. And that's my complete guide to the best tank builds for every class in Conquest of Azeroth. If this video helped you decide which tank to play, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Conquest of Azeroth content. I've got class guides, DPS, healer and tank tier lists, leveling guides, profession guides, mythic strategies, raid guides, gold farming tips, and in-game content coming very soon. Now I want to hear from you. Which tank class are you maining right now? And which build is giving you the best results in mythic dungeons or raids? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I always enjoy hearing your experiences and discussing the latest Conquest of Azeroth meta. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next guide.